1.
Good morning. On this lovely Easter morning, welcome. We're here to celebrate the incredible reality that our crucified Lord has risen from his grave and is alive forevermore. And because he lives, we live in hope of the fullness of life with him in this world and eternal life with him and each other in the world to come. We begin in darkness and in hope. As the sun rises, we enter into the certainty of the dawn of a new day, for the sun has risen. He has risen indeed. So let's celebrate the coming of the light.
Sing together when I survey the wondrous clouds. When I survey the wondrous cross, on which the Prince of Glory died, my riches I count but loss, and for contempt of all my pride. For it is Lord that I should boast, save in the death of Christ my God. All the things that charm me most, I sacrifice them to his blood. Sing from his heart, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love for me will do. Did there such love and sorrow meet, or thorns come so rich and cruel?
It is early morning, not quite yet dawn yet. The sun has not risen. It is still dark. Here I am, with my arms crossed, like usual. I don't know why. This is just my natural stance, even when I lie down to sleep. Always the skeptic, they tell me. Maybe. It's just that the way I am. Always standing at the back of any group, observing and analyzing. And from where I stood, I could see the whole thing coming over the last few months. As we started traveling toward Jerusalem, there were little signs that things were changing, that something big was going to happen. Some of the other disciples were getting charged up. Everyone was more tense. And we watched our backs, even if we wouldn't admit it. Jesus was getting more resistance, and often the crowd took it out on us disciples. I'm sure there were spies around, and officials, and religious bigwigs hiding in the shadows. And even Jesus was talking weird, mumbling things about suffering and betrayal and dying. I don't like uncertainty. I just wanted some clarity. some evidence, some open discussion. But who listens to me anyway? And then everything collapsed. You know the feeling. The rug being pulled out, everything spinning. It's like waking up from a beautiful dream and realizing you're back in your same old broken life. Jesus is gone, and we are left to pick up the pieces.
It is early morning, not quite dawn yet. The sun is not yet risen. It is still dark. I haven't slept for days. Every time I close my eyes, I see his face, those eyes, staring into me as he told me I would deny him. I was shocked. I thought, is that what you think of me, Jesus, after all this time? But then I did just what he said. I didn't mean to. I was just scared and confused. But I did it. I denied knowing my closest friend 3 times. And then the rooster crowed. And I realized that he knew exactly who I was all along and what I would do to him. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces, as did my lofty image of myself. I ran to hide, and I've been weeping and awake ever since. Waiting? Well, I don't know for what. Waiting for the daily reminder of the crowing rooster that I will live every day until my death as an unfaithful coward. And all the others heard Jesus that night. They know what I did. And that rooster announces to them every day what a failure Peter is. What I'm supposed to do with this guilt that haunts me, the shame that I can never wash away. I can't look any of the other disciples in the eyes. Jesus even changed my name. He said, "You are Peter, the rock." What a joke. I wish someone could throw this rock in the depths of the sea. Maybe then I could have some peace, or at least some sleep.
It is early morning, not quite dawn yet. The sun has not yet risen. It is still dark. I still can't believe he's gone. I keep having flashbacks of the terrible things they did to him, the horrible way he died, and how powerless I felt. And there is no escape in sleep. I'm grateful for one thing, though. The death finally released him from his suffering. I've never loved anyone like I love Jesus. I've never been loved by anyone like I was loved by Jesus. I didn't care what anyone else thought when I put my head on his chest at the Passover dinner. It was ever so brief, but something in me just wanted to hear his heartbeat. And the next day I watched as his heart broke open on the cross and stopped beating. In that moment, everything stopped for me. There was silence. Empty, echoing silence. And when Joseph and Nicodemus finally got him down from the cross, I put my head on his chest again. Silence. That's when I knew he was really dead. Reality rushed in all around me. Mary Magdalene was wailing, and Jesus' mother would not leave her son's side. She was also silent, unmoving. Her own heart pierced by the sword Simeon had prophesied so long ago. I heard Jesus' voice in my memory. "John, here is your mother." I walked slowly to her. "We are family now," I said. "Come home with me. I'm not sure what the future holds. I don't think life will ever be the same without Jesus. But one thing is certain. No matter what happens, I will continue to love my dear friend by loving and caring for his mother, and allowing her to love and care for me."
It is early morning, not quite dawn yet. The sun has not risen. It is still dark. I really think I'm losing my mind. Nothing makes sense anymore. How can people do such horrendous things to other people? Who even thinks to torture people nearly to death, then nail them to posts of wood to make the dying as painful as possible? And why would anyone do this to Jesus? To my Jesus? To this man who saw those everyone else walked by, who treated outcasts with dignity, touched and healed lepers, who did not play favorites, but was friend to sinners and soldiers, legalists and lawbreakers alike. Just when I think I can take a breath and feel the ground again solid under my feet, I think of him. I see the acceptance that was always in his eyes towards me, or I see him looking down at me from that cross, and another wave of sobbing rises up and drowns me. What am I going to do without him? Have you ever lost the one person you couldn't live without? Do you know that gut-wrenching agony? No one loved him more than I do, except his mother. Why couldn't I have died with him? I've been wandering aimlessly since they buried him, waiting for the Sabbath to end so I can go be with him, clean his body with his mother, finish his burial ritual, wrap him in clean cloth, and then what? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. I am nothing without him. I haven't only lost my mind. I have lost myself. And I am so very afraid I will never be found again.
Christ is risen. And your response?
Christ is
Risen indeed.
Christ is risen.
Christ is risen indeed. And Christ is risen.
Christ is
Risen indeed.
The lyrics are on your handout in case you were wondering. Crown him with many crowns, the Lamb upon the throne. Hark how the heavenly anthem drowned all music, thought, and song. Awake my soul and sing of him who died for thee, and hail him as thy matchless King to all eternity. Crown the Lord of light, who triumphed o'er the grave, and rose victorious in the strife for those he came to save. His glory now we see, who died and rose on high, who died eternal life to break and wins that death and die. Loud in the Lord of heaven, one with the Father Lord, one with the Spirit who will give from yonder glorious throne. All hail, Redeemer, hail, for thou hast died for me. Thy praise and glory shall not fail through all eternity.
And now the rest of the story. Early in the morning, on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. She ran to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord from the tomb, and we don't know where they put him."
Peter and the other disciple left to go to the tomb. They were running together, but the other disciple ran faster than Peter and was the first to arrive at the tomb. Bending down to take a look, he saw the linen cloths lying there, but he didn't go in. Following him, Simon Peter entered the tomb and saw the linen cloths lying there. He also saw the face cloth that had been on Jesus' head. It wasn't with the other clothes, but was folded up in its own place. Then the other disciple, the one who arrived at the tomb first, also went inside. He saw and believed. They didn't yet understand the scripture that Jesus must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to the place where they were staying.
He's alive. And those who had wakened in the dark to grieve his loss, whose voices we had heard already this morning, were to encounter him in new and transformative ways in the weeks ahead. Each encounter was unique, as Jesus met his friends in ways that were deeply healing and deeply meaningful for each of them. Let us listen again.
Morning has broken. I have seen the Lord. How was I supposed to know those angels were real and not just another grief-induced hallucination? Nothing was going to convince me that he was alive except seeing him with my own two eyes and touching him with my own two hands. Listen, I've got no problem with angels. I definitely saw angels. But it was Jesus I needed to see. So when the other woman took off running to tell the male disciples, I stayed put. Like the men were going to believe them anyway. I knew if Jesus really were alive, he would come, tell me himself. But I still wasn't thinking very clearly. It was too much to take in. The only explanation that seemed realistic was that someone had stolen his body. The thought of that was unbearable. I needed his body. I needed a place I could come to feel connected to him, to remember him. Then the two men, or angels, or whoever they were, asked me why I was crying, and I lost it. I fell over the edge into a pit so deep, I thought I'd never hit bottom. Then, from behind me, the same question so gently, "Woman, why are you crying?" I thought it was the gardener. Sometimes you have to hear a question many times before you know how to answer. I turned toward the sound of life. "Please, tell me where they've taken him." Then I was tossed the rope. Mary. My name never sounded more alive. No one has ever said my name like that except Rabboni. How do you put that kind of joy into words? I was laughing and crying. I definitely had something to hold on to now. He told me to let go. The phrase, "Are you kidding?" skipped through my mind. But he wasn't kidding. He told me I couldn't cling to him the old way anymore because he wasn't staying. He was definitely alive, but he had to leave again to go home to Abba. But somehow he also spoke to my heart, reassuring me that a friendship like ours could never end, and that letting go of our old life together would allow me to grab hold of something far, far better. A friendship without the old social and religious constraints, a friendship of unlimited love, a friendship in which we could know and be known in unimaginable ways, not by clinging, but by letting go.
morning has broken. I have seen the Lord. It was Mary Magdalene who woke me. I had fallen asleep out of sheer exhaustion just before dawn. She had been in hysterics since Jesus died, and we were trying to watch out for her, but there was nothing anyone could do to calm her down. When she nudged me awake, I thought she was just ranting again, but I realized that she wasn't weeping. She was laughing. Her face was radiant, and she kept shouting, "He's alive! He's alive!" Then the light dawned in me what she meant, and I looked around for Peter. Our eyes met, and without a word, we knew what Mary was saying, and we took off running. I felt like a kid trying to get first to the best surprise ever. Peter and I were neck and neck, but I had the edge and got to Jesus' tomb first. I stopped dumbfounded, and Peter stopped right next to me. Our mouths looked like the tomb before us, gaping wide open. We peeked in. Jesus' burial cloths were there, but he was not in them. It felt like taking one more step would change my whole life forever. I was transfixed in that spot for just a moment, but it was long enough for Peter to get ahead of me. He always moved first and fast, but for once it didn't matter. I stepped inside and saw that the small cloth that had covered Jesus' face was lying neatly in place, exactly where his head had been laid. And in that moment, I knew Jesus was alive. How did I know? Who knows? Who cares? I just knew it deep down in my knower. Jesus was alive, and not.
Morning is broken. I've seen the Lord. Yes, I've seen him with my own eyes. Yes, these eyes. And yes, I'm looking everyone in the eye again. Because I didn't only see him with these eyes, my risen Lord looked into these eyes with an unconditional love that literally transformed me from darkness to light. It all happened so fast. Mary just ran in and I thought, oh, here we go again. She's hysterical and talking nonsense again. But when I actually looked at her face and I listened to her voice, I realized that she had either lost her mind completely or had experienced something no human mind could ever understand. She just kept saying, he's alive, he's alive. Go see for yourself. I took one look at John and we started running. He stopped when we got there, but not me. If Jesus was alive, I needed to see him. Could there be hope for a failure like me? The tomb was empty. All the grave wrappings were there, but Jesus wasn't. And I didn't know what to do. Maybe Jesus talked to the woman, but didn't wait around for me because he's done with me. I showed him who I really am. I wouldn't blame him for not wanting me around anymore. Later on, Jesus appeared in a locked room with us disciples where we were hiding. And he said, peace be with you. And he breathed on us. But he didn't speak to me personally like he had done with some of the others. It was wonderful to see him alive, but I just kept my head down. Shame does that to you. So afterward, I just went home. You think it's easy going back to fishing? To listen to all the guys making fun of you for following Jesus in the first place? It didn't even matter that I was right. Jesus was the Lord. I'm glad it worked out for him. But there's no place in anyone's kingdom for a lying deserter. No, I didn't talk to him about it. I couldn't even stomach myself. So I spared him the trouble of firing me and went home with my tail between my legs. But fishing was room for me too. Jesus had promised to teach me how to fish for people, and I blew it. So every real fish I caught was a painful reminder of my failure. Don't you think it's better to never to fall apart than to live the rest of your life among the broken pieces? Well, that particular morning, we were rowing back after yet another fishless fishing trip. John saw a man waving and yelling to us from the shore. Got any fish? Probably a hungry traveler looking for some hospitality. He even had a fire going. He had more hope in us than we did. Sorry, no fish today, I shouted. Just as we pulled in a net-breaking catch, it felt like deja vu. Jesus had once taken me into deep waters, and I pulled in to catch a fish just like this. And then John whispered, Peter, it's Jesus. I never hoped he'd come for me, but there he was. I jumped in the water and I swam and sloshed all the way to shore, my lips silently repeating, I'm sorry, oh Jesus, forgive me, I'm sorry. I hauled myself out of the water, breathing like a beached whale, and there he was, looking at me with those eyes. I was paralyzed. I couldn't undo history, no matter how much I wanted to. This time, the guys just ran past me to get to Jesus first, and he invited us to breakfast. We sat around the fire, they told stories. I just wanted to run, until Jesus caught my eye and began to speak to me. I thought I'd lose my breakfast. Twice he asked me, Simon, do you love me like God loves? Twice I answered, Lord, you know I love you like a brother. What was I supposed to do, lie? A third time he asked, Simon, do you love me like a brother? And I answered, yes, Lord. One confession of love for each of my 3 denials. How humble he was. He deserves to be loved perfectly, but he wants to be loved by me, and I want to love him like that. Then feed my sheep, Peter. You're trustworthy now. Feed my sheep for me. And just then I thought I heard a rooster crow, announcing the start of my brand new life, and it was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard.
Morning has broken. I have seen the Lord. I never thought I would utter those words, even when rumors of Jesus' resurrection started circulating. It started with the women, including that emotional mess, Mary Magdalene. They came to us brothers first with crazy delusions. But the rumors didn't stop there. Others started saying they'd seen Jesus alive, like when John and Peter and the rest of the disciples said he appeared to them out of nowhere in a locked room. Of course, I wasn't there to see it. Then Cleopas and his wife from Emmaus to tell us that he had walked with them and eaten dinner at their house that very day. They said they saw his pierced hands, and then he disappeared. I wanted to believe it, but I simply couldn't, unless Jesus made it real for me too. I don't think I was asking too much. Do you? I didn't want to stake my life on an illusion. I'd seen his dead body with my own eyes, and if he was alive again, I wanted to see his risen body the same way. I followed Jesus through it all, just like the others, and I loved him too. I didn't walk away. I was willing to wait as long as it took for me to know the truth, one way or the other. Turns out I only had to wait a week, though at the time it seemed like forever. I was in a locked room with the other disciples, and Jesus appeared right there in the middle of us. I got to hear what I missed the first time. Peace be with you, he said, and then he gave me the deepest desire in my heart. Go ahead, Thomas, touch my hands, put your fingers in my side. I reached out and felt the substance of his body. This was no illusion. Jesus was alive, and it didn't have to make sense. The proof was standing right before me. My mind bowed down before what it could never understand. My heart worshiped as I fell on my knees before him. And the only words I could speak were, "My Lord, my God." Jesus smiled, pleased that I believed what I could finally see. But he went on to praise all of you. "Blessed are all of you who have not seen, yet have believed."